I've begun my voyage in a paper boat without a bottom. I will fly to the moon in it. I've been folded along a crease in time, a weakness in the sheet of life. Now you've settled on the opposite side of the paper to me. I can see your traces in the ink that soaks through the fiber, the pulped vegetation. When we become waterlogged and the cage disintegrates, we will intermingle. When this paper aeroplane leaves the cliff edge and carves parallel vapor trails in the dark, we will come together.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dear Esther. This is a game that has been on my radar for years and years and years and years and years. As a matter of fact, it was the first narrative game that I kind of sought after, that I found when I was looking at narrative games, but I never got around to playing it. I played Tacoma, Edith Finch. Everyone's Gone to the Rapture that I didn't record, but played that game. Very nice. It's the same sort of general thing. There's not a ton of gameplay involved with this one, but it's more of a narrative story. So if you think of video games as a form of art, if you will, then this game will be right up your alley. Just like Tacoma and Edith Finch, I don't know anything about this game. But I just saw the trailer that we just watched together here. So why don't you join me and we will see who Esther is together.
Dear Esther, the gulls do not land here anymore. I've noticed that this year they seem to shun the place. Maybe it's the depletion of the fishing stock driving them away. Perhaps it's me. When he first landed here, Donnelly wrote that the herds were sickly and their shepherds the lowest of the miserable classes that populate these Hebridean islands. 300 years later, even they have departed.
Alright, so, welcome to the island. So it looks like we will experience the story through this narrator, as he writes letters to Esther. So it looks like we're at this abandoned island. No one goes here anymore. Right, yep. It looks pretty dilapidated. That looks like chemistry. I would know nothing about that. Let's... Right, okay. There's no... Okay, that's the zoom in button. Okay, that's also the zoom in button. Okay, there's 4 buttons for the same function. Oh, hello. Right, okay, so this paint might be a reoccurring theme. Let's go up, shall we? Looks absolutely beautiful, though. This game is a few years old. But yeah, is there a sprint button? Looks like every single button on the controller just zooms in. Apart from that, that's walk backwards. Wow, every button is just a zoom in button. I don't know if I like that. Yeah, there is no sprint. We are stuck at this speed for a while. Maybe I'll speed this up.
Donnelly reported the legend of the hermit, a holy man who sought solitude in its most pure form. Allegedly, he rode here from the mainland in a boat without a bottom, so all the creatures of the sea could rise at night to converse with him. How disappointed he must have been with their chatter. Perhaps now, when all that haunts the ocean is the rubbish dumped from the tankers, he'd find more peace. They say he threw his arms wide in a valley on the south side and the cliff opened up to provide him shelter. They say he died of fever 116 years later. The shepherds left gifts for him at the mouth of the cave, but Donnelly records they never claimed to have seen him. I have visited the cave and I have left my gifts, but like them, I appear to be an unworthy subject of his solitude.
116 years, hey? So he would have been, what, 130 years old? That's quite the innings. There's more paint. Let's explore the cave, shall we? So, the legend of the hermit, hey? No one's seen him. I wonder if we'll see him. Oh, no, nothing to see here. Oh, hello. Looks like we're going down that way. Alrighty. Not too sure what to make of everything. This isn't a horror game, by the way. Where the hell do I go? There is no shooting, no puzzles, nothing to interact with. The flashlight turns on automatically, and every button on the controller appears to zoom in. I wonder if we can get down that way. Oh goodness. We can. Oh, okay. Bit of a shortcut. Let's see if we can go round here and go to that blinking light.
When you were born, your mother told me, a hush fell over the delivery room. A great red birthmark covered the left side of your face. No one knew what to say, so you cried to fill the vacuum. I always admired you for that you cried to fill whatever vacuum you found. I began to manufacture vacuums just to enable you to deploy your talent. The birthmark faded by the time you were 6 and had gone completely by the time we met, but your fascination with the empty and its cure remained.
Right, so this guy must be a family friend of some sort. Also, I can relate to whoever this character we're playing is, as during this Let's Play, I feel like I need to fill the vacuum of silence by chatting here. Hopefully this isn't... Am I going in a giant circle? I hope I'm not.
A wonderful sight. The moon cresting the junction between the cliff path and the stone circle. It cast a shadow of the ridge across the beach. All the world as if you had signed your name in untidy handwriting.
Right. Well, I see the beacon in the distance there. That's another thing we can slowly make our way to. But that flickering light down below in the cave is something worth investigating. I don't really know. I have no idea what the story is. Well, I take that back. The only thing I do...
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boats, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this. To keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
So, I know that either we or whoever the story is about, that the narrator is on about, is about a shipwrecked individual. But I don't know. So they would. So when people were dead, they would, or dying, they would carve out things in the mountain. Hey. So and you mentioned something about an infection. Uh-huh. It doesn't look too good too. I hope it doesn't start raining.
I quote directly, a motley lot with little to recommend them. I have now spent 3 days in their company. That is, I fear, enough for any man not born amongst them. Despite their tedious inclination to quote scripture, they seem to me the most God-forsaken of all the inhabitants of the Outer Isles. Indeed, in this case, the very gravity of that term, forsaken by God, seems to find its very apex. It appears to me that Donnelly, too, found those who wander this shoreline to be adrift from any chance of redemption. Did he include himself in that, I wonder?
So yeah, looks like we're talking about shipwrecked people on this island. Perhaps we'll come across them. Right, as we make our way down here now, this was... yeah, here we go, that's the hole around the corner there, with the flickering light. So I guess the red light up
Dear
on
Esther, I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life. I threw my arms wide and the cliff opened out before me, making this rough home. I transferred my belongings from the bothy on the mount and tried to live here instead. It was cold at night and the sea lapped at the entrance at high tide. To climb the peak, I must first venture even deeper into the veins of the island, where the signals are blocked altogether. Only then will I understand them, when I stand on the summit and they flow into me, uncorrupted.
Alright, so we have some more chemistry on the walls, or what have you. I was never good at chemistry. Right, I don't know what to make. Is this a U-turn? Are we coming out the way we came? Alright. That's fine. And there's the blinking light in the distance there. So I assume that's our end game. We need to go all the way over there, which seems like quite a trek for someone moving at the speed of us. It is beautiful though. The wind howling. There's nothing more beautiful than a violin and a
piano. He still maintains he wasn't drunk, but tired. I can't make the judgment or the distinction anymore. I was drunk when I landed here, and tired too. I walked up the cliff path in near darkness and camped in the bay where the trawler lies beached. It was only at dawn that I saw the bothy and decided to make my temporary lodgings there. I was expecting just the aerial and a transmitter stashed in a weatherproof box somewhere on the mount. It had an air of uneasy permanence to it. Like all the other buildings here, erosion seems to have evaded it completely.
Right. So, was this a building once upon a time? Where do we go? Let's go up here. Let's just go up the middle. Now, apparently, One other little thing that I noticed in this game before I started playing here was that there are Easter eggs in the form of 11 ghostly figures that kind of watch us at certain parts of the game. So they're not hostile or anything, but apparently we get watched. So, I don't know if I'll be able to see them, but if you see them, we can talk about it in the comments section. Ooh, an achievement. A silver trophy. How generous.
Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. But although I have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my Ordnance Survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome brake services. But although I can always see it in my rear-view mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
Right, okay. I wonder if this is the narrator's shipwreck. If I'm understanding the story properly, did our friend here, was he a bit of a castaway? Reposition advice. Reposition. I don't know how to speak English. Right, looks like a cargo ship of some sort carrying mini freight. I wonder if we can explore the inners of the ship. Can't seem to climb anything. Nope. Is there a way on the ship, perhaps? Look at all this stuff. I guess not. We'll go back the way we came. That's fine. Interesting though. So yeah, looks like these guys crash landed here. And I suppose we'll make our way to that little light. Damn, look at the rocks. That wouldn't have been a nice landing.
An imagined answer phone message. The tires are flat, the wheel spins loosely, and the brake fluid has run like ink over this map, staining the landmarks and rendering the coastline mute, compromised. Where you saw galaxies, I saw only bruises cut into the cliff by my lack of sobriety.
Okay. We hit a dead end just then, so I'm gonna double back here. Looks like this whole fucking section was, I wouldn't say a waste of time, but I don't believe we can advance any further in this direction, so let's go back. Seen any ghosts yet? Because I haven't. I haven't really been looking for them, but... Looks like we'll make our way upstairs here. Up the mountain. The hill. Is that where we're still... Should we go that way? Was that the way we came? Oh no, I think I'm lost. Or perhaps we'll go that way. Yeah, let's give it a shot. So, it's kind of a trend, obviously, with these walking simulator type narrative games, that you do take your time with the speed. But honestly, a sprint button would be quite nice. Not gonna lie. But you know, normally these types of games don't put sprint in as an intentional decision, so that you really take your time and look at the world at hand, especially when it's something like this where all you're doing is just walking around here.
I had kidney stones and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk.
Right. Looks like our sailor here had alcoholic problems and kidney stones. Not cool. Never had kidney stones. I don't imagine it to be a pleasant experience. Hello. Oh, it feels like the weather's turning a little bit. It's getting a bit bad.
I've
Maybe
begun my ascent on the green slope of the western side. I've looked deep into the mountain from the shaft and understood that I must go up and then find the way under. I will stash the last vestiges of my civilization in the stone walls and work deeper from there. I'm drawn by the aerial and the cliff edge. There is some form of rebirth waiting for me there. The bothy was constructed originally in the early 1700s. By then, shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd was a man called Jakobsen, from a lineage of migratory Scandinavians. He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders. He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not work. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years after completing it. There was no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him either.
Bit of an eerie tradition to carve white lines as you're dying. More markings here. I can already see more markings over there too.
Three cormorants seen at dusk. They did not land. This house built of stone, built by a long-dead shepherd. Contents: my camp bed, a stove, a table, chairs, my clothes, my books. The caves that score out the belly of this island, leaving it famished. My limbs and belly famished. This skin, these organs, this failing eyesight. When the battery runs out in my torch, I will descend into the caves and follow only the phosphorescence home.
I will descend into the caves. Okay, so I guess we are playing as the narrator here. However, there does seem to be... There's more fencing up there, so I wonder if we can go northward. Although maybe we can't actually get past that terrain up there. Let's go down, let's continue. It would be terrifying if you were to crash land on an island and seek shelter, but just have, you know, as all hope is lost slowly across the days. Looks like going down to the caves was his last resort, or what have you.
what to make of Donnelly, the laudanum and the syphilis. It is clearly not how he began, but I've been unable to discover if the former was a result of his visiting the island or the force that drove him here. For the syphilis, a drunk driver smashing his insides into a pulp as he stumbled these paths, I can only offer my empathy. We're all victims of our age. My disease is the internal combustion engine and the cheap fermentation of yeast.
Looks like this. So, from what I can piece together, obviously this guy, his body is failing him, and his likeness to drink does not exactly help.
They found Jakobsen in early spring. The thaw had only just come. Even though he'd been dead nearly 7 months, his body had been frozen right down to the nerves and had not even begun to decompose. His fingernails were raw and bitten to the quick. They found the phosphorescent moss that grows in the caves deep under the nails. Whatever he'd been doing under the island when his strength began to fail is lost. He'd struggled halfway up the cliff again, perhaps in a delirium, perhaps trying to reach the Bothy's fire before curling into a stone and expiring.
Goodness. Well, look at the skeleton of a ship. This has been here for quite some time by the looks of it. Let's head into the cave here. The nice thing about this game...
Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and fell and have injured my leg. I think the femur is broken. It is clearly infected. The skin has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain is crashing in on waves, winter tides against my shoreline, drowning out the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the bothy to rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way this is likely to end. The medical supplies I looted from the trawler have suddenly found their purpose. They will keep me lucid for my final ascent.
Goodness. Right, so he's hurt now. The nice thing about this game is that it doesn't tell you where to go, but it very subtly hints at general places of interest. Obviously these loading screens are the exception, but within these levels...
Donnelly did not pass through the caves.
You were not told where to go.
From here on in, his guidance, unreliable as it is gone from me. I understand now that it is between the two of us, and whatever correspondence can be drawn from the wet rocks.
Right, so he just, he's injured now, he slipped and fell, and it looks like we're not going back.
I first saw him sat by the side of the road. I was waiting for you to be cut out of the wreckage. The car looked like it had been dropped from a great height. The guts of the engine spilled over the tarmac, like water underground.
The fact that he keeps going back and forth with these two different stories makes it a little difficult to understand exactly what is happening. That is so interesting. I missed this path because this green area is where we came from. That drew my attention, and then naturally walked around in a circle, and this is now where we have to go. I love this game. It's so linear, yet it doesn't tell you anything. The speed changes by itself. Sometimes I go faster, sometimes I go slower. It's not necessarily up to me.
In my final dream, I sat at peace with Jakobsen and watched the moon over the Sandford Junction. Goats grazed on the hard shoulder, a world gone to weed and redemption. He showed me his fever scars, and I mine, between each shoulder the nascency of flight.
Damn it. I knew I was kind of looking at the pathway to go up, and I kind of thought because these blue rocks were shining the way that we were supposed to go this direction, but I was wrong. We were supposed to go in the other direction. That's nice though. It's a nice change of pace to kind of just explore yourself, you know. I don't get told anything. The left side past the bridge there was very dark, the right side was lighter, so I figured maybe we go that way. You know, it's nice to not have your hand held when playing a game that requires exploring, you know. You play Grand Theft Auto and it tells you exactly what to do. But the games like this, they don't hold your hand at all and you have to figure it out by yourself. Even though it can be quite linear, like we're just following a path, it's a nice change of pace.
When I was coming round from the operation, I remember the light they shone in my eyes to check for pupil contraction. It was like staring up at a moonlit sky from the bottom of a well. People moved at the summit, but I could not tell if you were one of them.
Behold Damascus. Taken? Damascus is... Whoa. Is a very old... Away from being a city? Away from being... I can't quite read that. Well, at least these drawings are making a bit more sense. Find it. Small. I don't know. You can make out letters. P. There's a G, U, S. M-E something, I don't know. It would be very beautiful to go caving like this. Although I'm a wimp, I wouldn't want to go caving unless I knew it was 100% safe. But look, it's just so beautiful. I love it. We are fucking deep. Whoa. Was this the site of the car crash? Oh no, look at that. Is it our bedpan? Or a deathbed? A bedpan. Shall we try and surface? Oh shit.
I wish I could have known Donnelly in this place. We would have had so much to debate. Did he paint these stones or did I? Who left the pots in the hut by the jetty? Who formed the museum under the sea? Who fell silently to his death into the frozen waters? Who erected this godforsaken aerial in the first place? Did this whole island rise to the surface of my stomach, forcing the gulls to take flight?
Alright, this guy's losing it a little bit.
Dear Esther, I find each step harder and heavier. I drag Donnelly's corpse on my back across these rocks, and all I hear are his whispers of guilt, his reminders, his burnt letters, his neatly folded clothes. He tells me I was not drunk at all. There were chemical diagrams on the posters on the walls on the waiting room. It seemed appropriate at the time. Still life abstractions of the processes which had already begun to break down your nerves and your muscles in the next room. I crammed diazepam as I once crammed for chemistry examinations. I am revising my options for a long and happy life.
Light from heaven shone around the... Light from heaven shone around him. Light from heaven shone around... No, that is shone. Shone around him. I wonder if that's a passage. Like a Bible passage or something. Oh, a light from heaven shone around him. There's more writing up there too. I guess we'll figure that out soon enough. We're getting pretty close to the to that light there. Look at that moon. That's fucking beautiful. Look how big it is. That's a pretty rare phenomenon for the moon to reach that size. Okay, I can't get up here. I should have gone round. Actually, can I keep going along the beach? I can.
From here, I can see my armada. I collected all the letters I'd ever meant to send to you, if I'd have ever made it to the mainland, but had instead collected at the bottom of my rucksack, and I spread them out along the lost beach. Then I took each and every one, and I folded them into boats. I folded you into the creases, and then, as the sun was setting, I set the fleet to sail. Shattered into 21 pieces, I consigned you to the Atlantic, and I sat here until I'd watched all of you sink.
He's fucking losing it. It's quite sad to see him lose hope. All these letters to Let's just check this out real quick and then we'll go up. A light from heaven shone around him and he fell to the ground. It is getting quite dark. It would be very nice to be somewhere like here, just look up in the sky with no light pollution. You'd be able to see the Milky Way. I don't think that sky does it justice of what you could be able to see here with no light pollution around. It's interesting, from a narrative perspective, I don't quite understand the story all that much, but the emotion and the music score, it's all very atmospheric. It works very well. Whoever this voice actor is did a
The pain in my
tremendous
leg
job.
sent me blind for a few minutes as I struggled up the cliff path. I swallowed another handful of painkillers, and now I feel almost lucid. The island around me has retreated to a hazed distance, whilst the moon appears to have descended into my palm to guide me. I can see a thick black line of infection reaching for my heart from the waistband of my trousers. Through the fugue, it's all the world like the path I have cut from the lowlands towards the aerial.
See that guy? My controller's freaking out a bit. Next to the light. I think that's ghost numero uno. Let's go say hello. Look at him, just look at that black silhouette. It'd be creepy if he actually did something as we approach, and this turned into the scariest horror game ever. Jump scares and all that. It won't happen.
I've begun my voyage in a paper boat without a bottom. I will fly to the moon in it. I've been folded along a crease in time, a weakness in the sheet of life. Now you've settled on the opposite side of the paper to me. I can see your traces in the ink that soaks through the fibre, the pulped vegetation. When we become waterlogged and the cage disintegrates, we will intermingle. When this paper aeroplane leaves the cliff edge and casts parallel vapor trails in the dark, we will come together.
I begun my voyage in a paper boat without a bottom. That is the legend that he was telling us about at the beginning of the game. The writing on the wall says as he is proceeding on his journey. And was come near to damnation? I don't know.
If only Donnelly had experienced this, he would have realized he was his own shoreline, as am I. Just as I am becoming this island, so he became his syphilis, retreating into the burning synapses, the stones, the infection.
I'm quite excited now. We saw the this antenna at the very start of the game. We're getting very close to it.
Returning to my car afterwards, hands still shaking, and a head split open by the impact. Goodbye to tearful aunts and traumatized uncles. Goodbye to the phenomenal. Goodbye to the tangible. Goodbye Wolverhampton. Goodbye Sanford. Goodbye Cromer. Goodbye Damascus. This cliff path is slippery in the dew. It is hard to climb with such an infection. I must carve out the bad flesh and sling it from the aerial. I must become infused with the very air.
Man, he's fucking losing his mind as this infection spreads.
I have dredged these waters for the bones of the hermit, for the traces of Donnelly, for any sign of Jakobsen's flock, for the empty bottle that would incriminate him. I have scoured this stretch of motorway 21 times, attempting to recreate his trajectory, the point when his heart stopped dead and all he saw was the moon over the Sanford Junction. He was not drunk, Esther. He was not drunk at all, and it was not his fault. It was the converging lines that doomed him. This is not a recorded natural condition. The gulls do not fly so low over the motorway and cause him to swerve. The paint scored away from his car in lines like an infection, making directly for the heart. We will leave twin vapor trails in the air, white lines etched into these rocks.
So he is doing the very things that he told Esther at the start, Hal.
Dear Esther, I have burnt my belongings, my
I'm not controlling
books,
this.
this death certificate. Mine will be written all across this island. Who was Jakobsen? Who remembers him? Donnelly has written of him, but who was Donnelly? Who remembers him? I have painted, carved, hewn, scored into this space all that I could draw from him. There will be another to these shores to remember me. I will rise from the ocean like an island without bottom, come together like a stone, become an aerial, a beacon that they will not forget you. We have always been drawn here. One day the gulls will return and nest in our bones and our history. I will look to my left and see Esther Donnelly flying beside me. I will look to my right and see Paul Jakobsen flying beside me. They will leave white lines carved into the air to reach the mainland, where help will be sent. Come back.
Well, that was Dear Esther. Hmm. I don't quite know. I don't quite know what to say, to be perfectly honest. I think that was the first time I've played a narrative game, and I couldn't quite figure out what the fuck was going on. um, but it was definitely worth it. I still very much enjoyed this experience. I think the the performance of the voice actor, combined with the atmosphere of the island itself and the beautiful music that was playing alongside the views and the commentary. It worked very well. It was a good combination. It was very beautiful. I think that's probably the best way I can describe this game. It's very beautiful. From a narrative point of view, I couldn't quite figure out what was happening. The guy was explaining two stories interchangeably, and especially at the beginning, it was a little difficult to understand what role I played walking around. Um, but that aside, this was a beautiful little game, and I'm glad I finally got around to playing it. So thank you for watching if you're still here, and I will see you in the next one.